Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Okay, today we're going to cover risk management, how to keep yourself, especially your company, out of trouble. In New Jersey, the broker is ultimately responsible for all their salespersons. Before we start, the PowerPoint complies with the 6x6 rule with two exceptions. I asked an insurance expert to make me a couple slides. They're very large. It covers different types of insurance that you might want to buy for your company, and that is for another class. But it's in your booklet, and we're going to refer back to the PowerPoint for the insurance. Any questions?
Nope. Get started.
As you know, New Jersey is a broker salesperson state. Congratulations, you've all done your apprenticeship, your 3-year apprenticeship, and soon you will either be a broker salesperson and managing an office or a broker of record and owning your own office. We're going to cover risk management. Scott, what is risk management to you?
Risk management is essentially offsetting the chance of something happening to cost you money. So lowering the risk of something bad happening that's going to be a cost to you.
Okay, if we look at the screen, it's the chance of losing something. Very good. Managing risk. The extent of exposure, the probability that a loss will occur. We have a short class today because we had a bad storm. There's a lot of tree damage. Tree people are working all day and all night to clear up the problem. Okay, this is one of the insurance slides, which we're going to put off till next class. Risk, the chance of losing something. Risk management strategy. What do you think of these?
These will definitely help your bottom line, and they're definitely needed.
They're needed,
Absolutely.
and they'll help your bottom line. Did everyone hear Jarrell's answer? They're needed, and it'll help your bottom line. Excellent, excellent.
Dave, what's your opinion on this topic and how it relates to the new regulation that's just been passed with in Real Estate Commissioner NAR?
Okay, Scott's question was, what's my opinion on how risk affects us in the business with the New Jersey laws and the NAR settlement? It opens us up. It opens us up big time because you, as the owner of the company. If one of your people does something wrong, doesn't comply with the law, your company and yourself are on the line.
New risks.
New risks. Thank you, Jarrell. Jarrell said new risks. Now, people watching this may say, well, there's the NAR laws. But what a lot of people are not familiar with, and this goes to our students that are licensed in other states also, the governor signed a lot of new real estate laws in July that take effect August 1. And we're in the middle of August. So we have to comply. Some piggyback on the NAR settlement, and some affect strictly New Jersey brokers and salespeople. Can we avoid risk?
No.
No, it's not reality.
Stephanie says it's not reality. Thank you, Stephanie. What is avoiding risk? Madison?
Trying to protect yourself from things that can destroy your property or your support.
Trying to protect yourself. In reality, we could not drive a car, and then we don't have to worry about a car accident. But if we don't drive a car in New Jersey, how do we get from point A to point B? Because our public transportation lacks quite a bit. Our state was not designed for public transportation. In the inner cities, yes. But in the suburbs, no. I'm sorry?
Walking, that's
Jarrell says walking.
time is money.
Time is money. Thank you, Elmer. Risk reduction. That makes a lot of sense. What does risk reduction mean?
Lowering the chance that something bad will happen to cause you a loss.
Scott says reducing. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. Reducing the chance that something bad will happen, creating a loss for you. Reducing
Reducing
the risk of something.
the risk that something is going to happen. Very good. How do we reduce risk?
Education.
Taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility, education,
Insurance.
well, insurance would be transference.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's our next topic. Transferring risk from A to B. From Scott to Jarrell. And risk retention. This, to me, the only time I've really run into this, a salesperson asked me if he could take out his own E&O insurance because his broker didn't have it. In New Jersey, E&O is not required to renew a broker's license. I've been buying E&O for 20 plus years, and it's not a requirement to renew a broker's license. It would be, lack of better words, a stupid mistake not to have it. Because Again, we're talking about transference, transferring the liability from a person or a company to an insurance company. So this man's broker said he didn't have E&O insurance because he had tons of money. And my response was, nobody has that much money.
And why would he want to put it all on the line?
And Scott just brought up, why would he want to put it all on the line?
Yeah, it had to be hard to get it in the first place. I don't know why you just want to throw it away.
Yeah. So, we're going to now break down those 4 risk management strategies. Avoiding it. Refraining from activity that requires risk. Tough stance here. Avoiding it.
There's only so much you can avoid. Yeah. Can't live in a box.
You can't live in a box. Thank you, Scott. Reduction. Mitigation, sharing. Now, looking at that screen, hire new agents, hire experienced agents. Let's spend a minute with that. What's the advantage of hiring a new agent?
They have no previous impressions. They're new. They're teachable.
New to mold.
Yeah, you can mold them. Thanks.
Eager to learn, to get experience, and willing to work for less because they don't have any experience and they need the job.
You need somewhere to start.
Your answers are excellent. Thank you, Helmer. Helmer says someplace to start. Stephanie says they'll work for less. And Jarrell and Scott basically said they don't bring any bad habits. When I was looking to buy a franchise some 30 years ago, that was that company's philosophy. Hire new people, they don't bring bad habits. Let's talk about the negative of hiring new agents.
Training.
Risk is real high. This is true.
Okay.
Higher risk, training costs.
Higher risk training costs. You guys are going to be great brokers, I'll tell you. Training costs. Who's going to do the training?
Broker.
Yeah, that can come down to a few things. Could be a broker, could be somebody you're paying now to come in and train.
Legal counsel.
Yeah. Maybe
Definitely
another
wanna leverage legal
experienced
counsel.
person.
So it's going to be either the broker or the broker, according to Jarrell, has to pay someone. Now your overhead,
Costs.
your operating cost goes up. Let's talk about hiring an experienced agent. Benefits, negatives.
Benefits experienced, you don't have to train them.
Okay, Jarrell says don't have to train them, they're experienced.
Or limited training, right?
Yeah.
Limited training. I think, profitability. They come and they hit the ground running, or they bring, a pipeline of opportunity with them, and they know the ropes, and so it's less operating expense. So it's the bottom line faster.
So we're saying, in essence, they have a pipeline, they hit the road running faster. How about a negative of experienced agent?
Bring your bad habit.
Yeah. Probably.
The negative is bringing bad habits. Have you seen that in your company?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have? Okay. One broker student was telling me there's an elderly person that hangs out in the office and consumes alcohol. What happens if that person takes someone out and gets into a car accident?
Fully liable.
Right. Liability. Goes back to the broker.
Liability, and it goes back to the broker. Should that person be terminated?
Absolutely.
Yes.
High risk.
High risk. Thank you, Jarrell. And everyone else says yes, terminate him. When I was looking to buy a franchise, they were pushing new agents only. They said too many experienced people bring bad habits.
And there could be conflict of personalities in the office because you're older and you're not willing to flex and change and work with people as much.
Okay, how would you word that?
Adaptation. No adaptation.
Just conflict of personalities.
Conflict of
Where work may
personalities.
not get done.
People can coexist.
That's a risk if the work's not.
I'm sorry, Helmer?
Too many
People can
personal
coexist
issues.
inside the
Disruption,
office.
yes.
Coexisting.
Coexisting is, yeah.
Transference. Transferring risk. Pass it to another party. Get E&O insurance. By contract. What does by contract mean to you?
Putting it in writing.
Putting it in writing.
So then what's the difference between E&O and by contract?
Scott says, what's the difference between E&O and by contract? In New Jersey, what forms do we use for the most part?
The standard real estate forms.
Real estate
Real
contract.
estate contract.
Standard real estate contract.
Yes. For 1 to 4 family home dwelling.
Okay. The New Jersey Association of Realtors prints and supplies us with a lot of our forms to comply with the new NAR laws, the new New Jersey laws, which take effect actually yesterday. The New Jersey Realtors have a new buyer agency contract, a new consumer information statement. The MLSs are complying with the disclosure laws using approved forms. Now, the New Jersey Realtors, when they come up with a form, and I haven't been that active with the organization as I was, but in the past, they always had the New Jersey Bar Association approve all the forms before it went out to the membership. So using approved contract forms. And speaking of contracts, very soon you'll be opening your own office. You will have to enter into a broker, independent contractor agreement. The New Jersey Realtors have a phenomenal form. And the only thing you have to add to that is the two addendums. The addendum A covers the amount of compensation to be paid to the salesperson. Addendum B, rate of compensation to be paid to a salesperson on transactions that close after that salesperson leaves that broker. Because when people leave you, they typically leave unfinished business. So you'll get paid on that, but at a lower rate. And we know there's a few brokers out there that pay you almost nothing on business left behind.
People also starting a broker's office, a new business for themselves, they have to consider workman's comp, which is very expensive if they're gonna hire people.
Okay, Stephanie brought up workman's compensation. We're going to cover workman's comp in the next class covering insurance. If all of your licensees are independent contractors, you don't need workman's comp. Hire a secretary, you need workman's comp.
Yes.
So that's why most offices have everyone designated as an independent contractor. Because as a broker owner, I do not have workman's comp.
Yes, it depends on who you're hiring and what their position is and
Correct.
responsibilities. But you were talking about brokers' offices starting, so there's different levels of people and what their responsibilities.
Yes, thank you very much. And our next slide, risk retention. Accept risk. Take responsibility for consequence. Pricing strategy on a listing. Something that you deal with every day. How do we price a listing?
Depends, I mean, comps, a few different ways, depending on residential, commercial, but mostly comps, it's gonna go based on the area.
Mostly comps, based on the area.
There's the cost approach, the income approach, and comps.
Scott remembers the appraisal chapter. Thank you. Comps, cost approach, income approach. Have you ever seen a commercial listing come through? The agent advertises it, great investment. You ask them for the income and expenses, and they say, oh, I don't have it. Really? You don't have it, but you're saying it's a good investment. Somebody's broker didn't train them very well. And how about an agent that lists a property and doesn't check to see if there's easements, encumbrances, or if the property is in a flood zone. New Jersey has 564 municipalities. If you look on the book, it's 565, but two towns are talking about merging. In our area, many, many towns have flood zones. The nature and degree of the flood zones vary. How close it is to a river, a stream that might overflow. Has the property flooded before? What is the municipality doing, if anything, to alleviate or remediate or alleviate or lessen the severity of flooding? Risk management procedures. Who said education?
We did say that before.
We did say that before.
I don't remember who.
I think Scott.
Maybe.
Okay. Where do you get the education?
There's a couple different ways to get education. Either own knowledge, but then you could bring in, quote, the experts. You could bring in a legal counsel. You could bring in business partnerships, owners that are experts in their space. So, many ways to get education.
Many ways to get education.
Read a book.
Read a book.
Take classes at a real estate broker school, like American School of Business.
Okay, we offer some. Our boards of realtors offer lunch and learn on a regular basis. Every week, I get information about different seminars, different classes, especially now with the NAR settlement. Compliance.
I think education right now is paramount. So many people don't know what to do with this new regulations,
Yeah.
right? And I know colleagues in the industry who every day it's either a change to a form or change to how you're supposed to do this or that, and it's created a lot of difficulty.
Okay, so Scott says a lot of difficulty with the new forms. Every Tuesday, I go on the New Jersey Realtor website and check what new forms came out,
Exactly.
or MLSs.
Or how to deal with the buyers now, right? You can't open a door. Theoretically, you can't open a door unless you sit them down and have a conversation. You have to have a business conversation where you never had to do that before. Now the buyers, anybody who's a buyer's agent has to earn that customer. They have to be willing to give you 3%.
Well, let's not talk about percentages because now we're getting into antitrust, but a buyer might have to pay us now.
Right. Right.
Now, prior to the Consumer Information Statement, which dates back 25 years, we always worked for a seller. Then there was so many complaints for misrepresentation. Buyers thought they were being represented when they weren't. Buyers got free representation for 25 years. If you think about it, the seller paid their agent, the seller paid the buyer's agent, so the seller, in essence, paid the buyer's agent to work against them. And buyers are used to that. Commercial brokers have been adopting a different philosophy. The seller pays their broker, the buyer pays their broker. But it's going to take buyers some time to get accustomed to the fact that they have to pay for representation. I would hope that the New Jersey realtors start running ads educating buyers. And I think that will be coming down the road.
I think it has to, because these policies and procedures seem to change, not
Now
only
they're changing
yearly,
daily.
but once a year, that everything changes. And if people don't keep up to date and educate themselves, they're gonna be lost. They're not gonna know what's going on.
Well, the New Jersey governor just passed a law that we must have a buyer agency contract.
And it's on the news. I mean, it's been on the news that I've noticed, like on like the 10 o'clock news, like to show the world what's going on, that this is happening now. And it's you know, they've bulleted out like the changes in regulation, what's the impact on the housing, you know, like you never saw stuff like that.
Not for real estate, yeah.
Not for real estate ever. Real estate is just something that is there, essentially. But it's really a highlight now, like a big highlight. And for the buyer, you know, it's an additional expense that they probably had
Most
never
of it.
expected, and it could
Most of them
potentially
can't afford it right now.
exactly it could deter them. But from what colleagues are saying to me is that they the way that you structure the contract is you just put it back onto the seller, basically.
Well, you can do that. The seller can still pay the buyer's agent,
Yeah.
just that according to the Kansas City lawsuit, compensation to a buyer's agent has been taken out of our listing contracts. So we just have to depend on our office policy. Maybe put in a listing, call listing broker for buyer broker information. I don't think we can even put the word compensation.
I don't think so.
No, they made that clear. It's not, you can't talk.
They don't want the word compensation.
Yeah, no verbiage to commission or compensation.
I mean, not everybody's watching the 10 PM news, you know.
No, that was just a crude example. But no, to Dave's point that he was making is that NAR's going to have to start publicizing this.
Yes.
And I'm saying, well, you're right. I'm agreeing with correct, and
Sure.
now it's on the 10 o'clock news for the first time ever.
Mm.
Well,
That's part of disclosure, I guess, right?
that's our next topic. We're floating into disclosure. Disclose, disclose, disclose. Everything, and often.
Let me ask you this. That's an interesting point. So we have to have fair housing at the forefront of display in our respective offices. Do you foresee this new regulation being like right next to it?
It's a good question.
Thank you.
I think it's up to the individual office how they want to display, if displaying at all, that a buyer might have to pay their agent.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, you know, I was in a Bergen County community a few weeks back, and had just stopped at a traffic light, and I looked to the left of me, and there's an agency, and it had a huge window, a huge picture window, and it had 2.9%
Okay.
for a listing.
For, yeah, an average.
Like they were capitalizing
Right.
on that, because you know commission.
Commissions are negotiable between broker and
Correct,
client.
and they're always, who can give me the lowest, right, as the
Right.
seller, right? Who do I pay the least? And that's who I'm gonna go with, no matter what they tell me.
It could happen. A mortgage person was telling me yesterday
Mhm.
he's been working with a potential buyer. He got the buyer from a real estate agent.
Okay.
So the buyer said, I found the property, let's go forward with the loan. So the loan officer said to the buyer, oh, I guess so-and-so found you the property. He said, no, I didn't want to pay anybody, so I bought it for sale by owner.
Yep. Yep.
Another obstacle
Yeah.
that we might be dealing with. And who's to stop a buyer from going to a listed property and saying to the seller, I don't want to pay a commission, will you sell me the property yourself?
That's a great thought. Because then they become too lazy.
Or non-agent.
Right, but, or they bring someone in their agency and say, hey, just take care of the other side of
Or you got
this.
the new designated.
Yeah.
You can even
And then we have in New Jersey the new designated
you
agent.
could just switch
Wow.
that over. But honestly, I also feel they're just gonna be using attorneys. I
Yeah.
think that'll be a big change. Attorneys' fees are gonna slightly go up. What do you need him for? I'll walk you through this. Charge an extra $1,000. Save 10,000 overall.
Or more, right?
Depending on
The price of the house.
Absolutely.
Average house in New Jersey is what, 500,000?
5, 6, yeah. Yeah, you're significantly talking a lot of money.
Okay, and then another risk management strategy is insurance. There's so much forms of insurance that's another class. We could be here for hours.
Has its own day.
So insurance, and Stephanie was kind enough to bring up workman's comp before, which is a very high cost. And I don't know how other states are doing, but we're seeing my home insurance went up 30%. A building that I manage, we just got the new insurance bill. It went from $13,000 a year to $16,000 a year. One of my salespersons, his winter house in Florida, between property taxes, hurricane insurance, and flood insurance, is topping $22,000 a year. To me, that's no longer an affordable getaway house.
It's not your little, yeah.
And if people can't get homeowners insurance, what is that going to do to property values?
Right.
Yeah, you're not gonna sell that $10 million.
My sister-in-law's from Louisiana. Her two brothers live there. And I need to talk to them to clarify some issues, but she was saying the state has jumped in and is trying to help homeowners with insurance.
Oh, interesting.
Okay? If I buy another house in my current county, I may have to look for a new company. They were denied a rate increase and therefore are not writing new policies in 14 of the 21 counties. 14 of the 21 counties, they're not writing, more than half, new policies. Scott loves education.
Yes.
As an educated person and a trainer in his company, knowledge and skill reduce risk. Understanding forms and contracts. Getting back to the fact that you should be using approved contract form.
I believe they just released the new actual NAR contract too. They updated the contract. 2 spots now designated is in there.
NAR or NAJAR?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
They have, I just saw it the other day, I think, one section, section 29, where it used to say how we work. They added designated is now in there.
So Jarrell just brought up the fact that the New Jersey Realtors updated the contract forms because in New Jersey, brokers and salespeople can fill out a contract only for 1 to 4 family properties and vacant 1 family lots. All other properties, buyer, seller, or landlord and tenant sign a letter of intent. One of the parties brings that letter of intent to their attorney, who prepares the contract. I don't know how you all feel. How about if we didn't make contracts? Just let the attorneys make all the contracts. That's something else we'd have to get used to after all these years.
I'd have to write that somewhere.
Because when I first started in 1979, we did a binder between buyer and seller. And you couldn't sign a binder on a Sunday back then. Yeah. Then in the early 80s, we went with the 1 to 4 family contract, the Bar Association, the New Jersey Realtors, they agreed that we could do a 1 to 4 family contract and vacant 1 family lots as long as it had an attorney review clause. So I'm going to say roughly early 80s, maybe around 1982 or so. And we've been doing it that way ever since. It sped up the process on residential transactions. And especially now where we have a lack of housing, time is of the essence to get a contract signed and into attorney review, and we're still getting bidding wars because a contract and attorney review is still only an offer. It's not a contract till both attorneys say it's a contract. Property disclosure. People outside of New Jersey are going to find it that we were probably one of the last states to make it mandatory. But the law our governor signed in July to take effect August 1, all sellers must complete the property condition disclosure. Have you all printed the new one?
Yeah.
I was shocked. The one I've been using since roughly the year 2000 was the New Jersey Realtor form. It was 9 pages. The new one is 22 pages.
And they got rid of a lot of the unknown sections.
Thank you. Jarrell brought up the fact they got rid of a lot of the unknown sections. Now that's a problem. We talked about disclosure before. What if you're the executor of an estate? You know very little about a property. How are you going to answer it?
That's a tough one. Because you have to fill it out now.
You have to fill
You have to fill it out. It is now mandatory.
Get a little disclosure at the bottom.
Now,
Lived here for
when we sold our property in New York State, New York has had it mandatory for many, many years. I didn't know anything about the septic system. The person that put in the septic system was deceased. I was told the well was 280 feet deep, but I had no idea who drilled the well. So I had to put unknown for well and septic. And my broker said it's fine. Because New York has had mandatory property disclosure since Mario Cuomo was the governor. Provide information to reduce misunderstanding and lawsuits.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Mr. Rowan. Are regulatory changes both state and national now? And if so, how does that affect broker liability?
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie brought up the fact that state and national laws affecting real estate and how do they affect broker liability. Could be big time. We said the broker is ultimately responsible for his or her salespeople. We brought up before about hiring new agents versus experienced agents. A new agent has to be taught all these forms. An experienced agent might say the heck with it. I was talking to someone who went to an open house. She walks in and she said, because she's taken the salesperson's class, who represents whom? Are you going to give me a consumer information statement? And the person hosting the open house said, oh, we don't give those out. Well, the new law is you must give it out. When someone walks into an open house, you must immediately give them the consumer information statement, how you're representing the seller, the options to representing a buyer, because you don't want the buyer to give away their bargaining chips if they don't know who's representing who.
So is that considered a misunderstanding?
I think it's a lot more than a misunderstanding.
Sure.
I think it's okay. I'll go with Jarrell saying misleading. I would say it's a non-educated licensee that maybe should not be practicing real estate.
Agreed.
Disclosure areas, agency. As you know, the governor signed into law last month to take effect this month that in our 12 hours of continuing ed, which must be done every 2 years, 1 hour of agency has to be built into that. So we have 2 hours of ethics, 1 hour of fair housing, 1 hour of agency. So now we have to get that 1 hour of agency continuing ed course approved by the commission so that our people, brokers, salespeople, can get that credit before April 30th of 2025. Another part of the new law that was signed. So 3 issues: the buyer broker contract, mandatory; seller property condition disclosure, mandatory; agency, mandatory; and something that should have been done and wasn't done over the years: mandatory disclosure if the property's in a flood zone. In December, we had major flooding in New Jersey. Instead of taking me 20 minutes to go home at night, it was an hour and a half, because I had to zigzag through a lot of different communities, and part of 46 was closed, part of Willowbrook Mall was flooded. People had on the news, their homes were some 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet of water inside their houses. It was bad. Document and record keeping. Every slide blends into the next one. And now we're into document and record keeping. Maintain evidence of compliance. Document and record keeping. What do you think?
Necessity, we have to do it, whether we like it or not.
Okay, can you give me an example?
Like what we have to keep.
Yes.
Oh man, everything. I mean, the whole deal. You have your contract. I mean, as far as contract side and legal, I believe that's all 6-7 years. But we even have to keep marketing. You know, if you mail a block more than 3 houses, you have to keep that for 2 years.
That's what I was heading towards. Okay, in New Jersey, brokers have to keep all documents for 6 years. The only exception is unaccepted offers, 6 months. But Jarrell brought up about blockbusting. Okay, one of the federal and New Jersey laws against discrimination, if you solicit more than 3 homes on a block, you have to keep records of who you solicited and with what you solicited. The commission recommends a year. I recommend much longer. To piggyback on disclosure, elements of a paper trail. As a new company, you're going to need a policy, or should have a policy and procedure manual. If you don't have one, you can find one. Forms, records, contracts. A mortal sin in the real estate industry is a broker not keeping their trust account up to date. We've gotten away from brokers holding deposit monies in their trust account, passing it off to attorneys. But if you are holding trust monies, you know the law. Money has to be put in the trust or escrow account within 5 business days. You must, every 3 months, complete an accounting of your trust account. I've been the broker owner since 2016, July 1, 2016, after my partner died. I have a trust account. I have not used it yet. Every month I get a statement, 0 balance starting, 0 balance ending. So if I ever go through an audit, Mr. Investigator, here's the files. And you also have to have a trust account ledger, whether you make a spreadsheet or use a form the commission designed many, many years ago, which is a form I passed out in the classroom. Policies, policy and procedures. I do not want to say plagiarize your former company's policy and procedure manual, but you could take some ideas. You could take some ideas, and you know the laws, going to college with plagiarism and stuff like that. You can get some ideas and then create your own. I've even seen on the internet, you can buy a policy manual.
Enter some of your own info.
Yeah.
Enter into your own info, even if you have friends in industry.
You can probably get AI to write it for you. You just have to say,
So you can.
policy,
I actually had that right. with
policy
business
manual,
plan.
and the whole thing would write it.
Based on-
Scott says get AI to write it for you. Okay? I'm a little behind the 8 ball with technology. In fact, as you know, I paid someone to do the PowerPoint for me. Technology is not my thing. I'm the greatest instructor because you're all going to get 100. I know that.
That's true.
But technology is something I pay people
That's great.
to do. We can't be experts in everything.
That is true.
We'll end on this lawsuit. There was a lawsuit. It started as D'Souza versus Iowa Realty Company. This was in the state of Iowa. It wasn't a fall from steps. It was a slip and fall in the wintertime on a sleet-covered sidewalk. Now, whenever there's case law and it benefits the real estate industry, we can use that to protect us. Because when our country was formed, and it'll be 250 years in 2026, we had no laws. We adopted British common law. And as lawsuits progressed, then we had case law to back us up. D'Souza was looking at a property and slipped and fell on a sidewalk. They sued the broker, the owner, the lower courts. Said there was some liability, but when it went to the Superior Court in Iowa, a judge ruled that Iowa Realty did not have liability for 3 reasons. The broker did not occupy the property. The broker was not the property manager of the property. The broker was not the owner of the property. So the judge said the broker, and this is the exact term the judge used, the broker was not in possession of the property. Now, my partner put in years ago in our broker, salesperson, independent contract, no one is to come to the office in inclement weather. You could have a car accident, you could get hurt. Not too many people want to come out when there's a foot of snow. Owners may not clear the sidewalks and driveway if there's a foot of snow. Stay home, protect yourself, have some soup with your family, and come out the next day. Done. Okay, folks, so thank you for coming today, and we will see you at the next class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Steve.